Greetings to all the uncles, aunts, and dear friends who are following the channel The Sentiments of Old Age. My dear listeners, one night, in a house that seemed peaceful, an old grandmother was lying beside her grandchild, lulling her to sleep. Suddenly, the little girl, only 7 years old, trembled and whispered into her grandmother's ear, "Grandma, run." Just those 4 short words saved them both from a sinister plot right inside what was supposed to be their safe haven. From that very moment, waves of misfortune began to crash down tears, betrayal, pain, and breathless nights of running in the dark. Let us step into this story to feel the chills, yet also the profound bond of sacred family ties. I am Lan, now over 65 years old. All my life, I have been a simple rural woman, tied to the fields, the kitchen, my husband, and my children. My hair is gray now, and all I wish for is a little peace in my twilight years. But fate never seems to let me rest in quiet. Since my husband passed away, I have lived alone in a small house in the village, planting vegetables, raising chickens, living quietly. From time to time, my son Hung brings his wife and little daughter Nyak back to visit, and my heart feels comforted. I thought, in my old age, that was enough as long as my children were safe and well, but I never imagined storms would return to my life. One day, Hung came back to the village, his voice both pleading and determined. "Mother, Du has been so busy with work lately, and I leave home early and return late. Little Ingok is still so young, and there's no one to look after her. Why don't you come to the city with us, live with me and Thu, and help take care of her? The house is cramped, but with you there, I'll feel at ease." I hesitated, afraid of burdening my daughter-in-law, and also not used to the crowded life of the city. But when I thought of my granddaughter, my heart softened. So I nodded, accepting it as the path life had set for me. The day I carried my small suitcase to the city, my heart was filled with both excitement and worry. When little Ngok saw me, she ran up joyfully and hugged me tightly. "Grandma, stay here with me, okay?" Just that innocent sentence swept away all my doubts. But my daughter-in-law Thu's eyes told another story. She forced a smile and said casually, "Mother, just stay for now and we'll see. The house is small, so please bear with us." Her words made my heart sink, but I reminded myself to be understanding. At my age, I don't expect to be pampered just to be near my granddaughter so my son can work in peace. That would be enough. In the first days, I quietly took care of the house, waking early to cook, cleaning, picking Nyauk up from school. At night, I lulled her to sleep with the old folk songs from the village. Watching her innocent little face drift off in my arms warmed my heart. But gradually, I could clearly feel my daughter-in-law's growing displeasure in her eyes. Since coming to the city, I had always tried to stay silent so as not to make my son feel uncomfortable. But it seemed that with each passing day, Thu grew more and more resentful of my presence. Whenever I accidentally said something that displeased her, she would frown, even hinting sarcastically, "Mother's used to her country ways. This life doesn't suit her here." I could only swallow my tears, never daring to argue back. Then one evening, something happened that I will never forget. That day, Hung was away on a business trip. At home, it was just me, Thu, and little Ingok. After dinner, I took my granddaughter into the room and held her while she drifted off to sleep. Around midnight, as I was half asleep myself, I suddenly felt Ngok open her eyes wide, her gaze strangely bright in the darkness. She leaned close to my ear, her voice trembling but clear. "Grandma, you have to leave right now. It's dangerous here." Hearing that, my heart started pounding. I whispered softly, "Why are you saying that, dear?" "What danger?" Ngok sobbed. "I've seen Mama Thu talking on the phone when I pretend to sleep. She said, 'As long as that old woman's here, nothing will be peaceful.'" "I'm scared, Grandma. You have to leave, please." Those innocent words tore at my heart. All those days of patience, trying not to trouble anyone. And now I found myself shaken, full of doubt and disbelief. I hugged my granddaughter tightly and murmured, "You must have misheard, sweetheart. Go back to sleep." But Ngar clutched my hand even tighter, her eyes brimming with tears. "Please believe me, Grandma. You have to leave." That night, I couldn't sleep at all. Outside, the wind howled through the cracks of the door, while inside the house was eerily silent. My granddaughter's whispered warning echoed endlessly in my ears. Questions churned in my mind. Was Thu only annoyed by me, or was something far more frightening happening? Around 1 a.m., I heard faint noises from the living room, someone moving about and talking on the phone. I pressed my ear to the wall, my heart racing. Thu's voice drifted in, soft but distinct. Yes, let her sleep. We'll deal with it tomorrow. I can't stand this anymore. Everything has to end once and for all. At that, sweat poured down my body as though I had been doused with water. My heart nearly stopped. My granddaughter's warning suddenly felt confirmed. I hugged and locked tightly and decided then and there I had to leave that very night. Otherwise, who knew what terrible thing might happen? In the still of the night, trembling, I tiptoed out of bed. My hand reached for the small bag I had kept tucked away in the corner of the closet. Ingark grasped my hand and whispered, "Go, Grandma, I'll stay here." Tears streamed down my face as I kissed her forehead. "Be good, dear. Grandma will come back for you." I opened the door as quietly as I could and stepped into the pitch-dark hallway. The entire apartment block was asleep, only the wind whistling through the gaps in the doors. I tried to keep calm, silently praying for heaven's protection. Fear still gripped me. Was I overthinking, or was real danger lurking? But either way, my granddaughter's warning and Thu's words were too clear to ignore. I crept down the icy cold stairs, my legs feeling weak. The clock must have been past 1:30 a.m. The silence was so deep I could hear my own heartbeat. Each step felt endless. I only hoped no door would open, no one would notice me. Cold sweat ran down the back of my neck, and so I kept descending, silently praying to escape that home safely. Stepping into the lobby of the apartment building, the dim yellow lights cast a pale glow, making the place feel even more desolate. The security guard was slumped in his chair, seemingly long asleep. I quietly hurried outside, not daring to look back. The night wind hit my face, making me more alert, yet the fear in my chest still weighed like a stone. I kept walking along the empty street, legs trembling, not even knowing where I was going. My old cell phone had long been used only for receiving calls, and I had just a few 100,000 dong in my pocket for emergencies. The more I thought about it, the more humiliated I felt. An old woman, forced to flee in silence from her own son's home. As I walked, I suddenly remembered Mrs. Howe, an old friend from the village, now living with her daughter here in the city. I recalled her home wasn't too far away. If I could just keep walking a little longer, I would reach it. I decided to go there, hoping to find refuge for a few days. Each step grew heavier under the weight of my thoughts. What exactly was Thu planning? Had I misheard? But no, the voice I overheard on the phone last night was clear. Tomorrow we'll deal with it. Everything has to end once and for all. The thought made goosebumps prickle all over me. If I hadn't listened to my granddaughter's warning and stayed, who knows what would have happened? Standing at Mrs. Howe's door, I knocked softly. After a long moment, a light came on, and she cracked open the door, her eyes still groggy with sleep. "Good heavens, Lon. What brings you here at this hour?" I couldn't hold back anymore. I burst into tears like a child. Alarmed, Mrs. Howe pulled me inside and poured me a cup of warm water. Trembling, I told her everything. From Thu's cold stares, to Knock's whispered warning, to the late-night phone call. She listened with a furrowed brow, silent for a long time before sighing. "I know you may be overthinking, but it doesn't sound entirely baseless either. When someone doesn't want you around, they're capable of many things. Stay here with me for a few days, just to be safe." Her words eased me a little, but the weight of guilt still clung to me. I remembered the look in little Knock's eyes as she held onto my hand, her trembling yet resolute voice. "Grandma, run." The memory stabbed my heart. A 7-year-old child, so afraid. Had she truly overheard something terrible? My tears welled up again. Mrs. Howe patted my shoulder. "Calm yourself. Tonight, fate has spared you from a great misfortune. But tomorrow, what then? You can't just abandon your son and granddaughter forever." Her words struck the sorest spot in me. Yes, I couldn't bear to leave my granddaughter, nor did I want to be away from my son. But how could I risk returning when everything remained so uncertain? That night, I lay on the small bed in my friend's home, tossing and turning until dawn. In my dreams, I saw my daughter-in-law's cold eyes, my granddaughter weeping in the dark. I woke up with a start, my heart tangled in turmoil. The next morning, before I could collect my thoughts, my old phone rang. It was Hung. His voice was panicked. "Mother, where did you go last night? I woke up and you were gone. I was so worried. Thu said you left without a word, and it left me shaken." Hearing my son's words, my heart clenched. I knew he cared for me, but between him and his wife, I wasn't sure whom he would believe. I stammered, "I wasn't feeling well, so I went to a friend's house for the night. Don't worry." He sighed in relief but pressed on. "Where are you? I'll come get you." I quickly deflected. "No, let me rest a little and I'll come back. Don't trouble yourself." After hanging up, I sat frozen, torn apart inside. I trusted my son would never harm me, but Thu's words still haunted me. If I told him outright, would he think I was making things up, stirring discord in the family? But if I stayed silent, what if something unthinkable happened? While I sat in distress, Mrs. Howe suggested, "Why don't you go to the police and explain? At least they'd be aware and keep an eye out. If it's all a misunderstanding, so be it. But if there really is something, you'll have somewhere to turn." Her words made me hesitate. Part of me felt ashamed. Part of me feared embarrassing my son. What would people say if a mother-in-law accused her daughter-in-law? Yet the dread inside me kept growing. At last, I nodded faintly. "All right, I'll think about it tomorrow." That day, I stayed at Mrs. Howe's, restless and uneasy. In the afternoon, Hung called again, his voice pleading. "Mother, please come back. I'm worried you're uncomfortable outside. Nok keeps crying for you. Even Thu is worried. She keeps asking if you're upset with her." Hearing his words, my tears brimmed once more. Had Thu changed her tone out of real concern, or was she pretending? I couldn't tell, but the thought of Nok crying for me gripped my heart like a vice. That evening, I stepped out to the corner shop to buy some personal items. As I walked out, I thought I glimpsed a shadow lurking nearby, as if watching me. When I looked carefully, it vanished. A chilling fear spread through me. I hurried back inside and told Mrs. Howe. She grew anxious. "It could be someone from their family looking for you, or something else entirely." Her words unsettled me even more. Was there something darker at play than I realized? That night again, I lay awake, unable to find peace. My mind at that time was like a tangled mess of threads. My daughter-in-law's whispered words on the phone, little Ingok's anxious eyes, and that shadow lurking at the street corner the night before, all of it pieced together into an ominous premonition. I knew I couldn't keep running forever. Sooner or later, I would have to go back and face it. However harsh the truth might be, I had to uncover it. That night, I lay awake, unable to close my eyes. Every time I did, Nok's voice echoed in my ears. "Grandma, run!" Then Thu's icy tone on the phone, mingled with the flickering shadow at the alley, haunted me without end. I thought it over again and again, finally telling myself, tomorrow I must return. At least I could see my granddaughter. I couldn't bear leaving her forever like this, but the thought of facing Thu made me tremble. Pretending as if nothing had happened, I knew I couldn't. The next morning, I stepped out onto the balcony and drew a deep breath to steady myself. Mrs. Howe poured tea and asked, "What will you do? Staying here forever isn't an option. But going back, will it be safe?" My voice caught as I answered, "I miss my granddaughter so much." Hearing my son call tears my heart apart. Whatever happens, I need to see with my own eyes that she's safe. As for my daughter-in-law, I'll watch her carefully. If she truly has bad intentions, I must find a way to protect myself. Mrs. Howe looked at me with sympathy but understood. The bond between grandmother and grandchild is not something easily severed. So I hired a motorbike taxi back to the apartment building. All the way there, my heart pounded as if I were walking into danger. As soon as he saw me, Hung rushed out, his face a mix of panic and relief. "Mother, where did you go all night without a word? I searched everywhere, worried sick. Nok's been crying for you nonstop." Tears welled up in my eyes as I hugged my son tightly. His genuine concern eased me somewhat. But when I looked at Thu, her eyes were different, cold, and sharp as a blade. Though her mouth forced a smile, "It's good you're back. Now the family can be at peace again." The words sounded mild, but behind them was something that made my skin crawl. Ngok ran up, throwing her arms around me, sobbing. Grandma, where did you go? I was so scared. I told you to run, and you really did. I bent down and held her close, whispering, Grandma didn't leave you. I only went to a friend's house. I'm back now. I'll stay with you. Her tears soaked my shoulder. That moment deepened my resolve. No matter what, I had to protect my granddaughter. In the following days, on the surface, life went on as usual, cooking, cleaning, playing with Ngok. But inside, I was always on guard. Whenever Thu made phone calls, I listened. Once, I heard her say quietly, I can't stand it anymore. This has to end soon. Hearing that sent an icy chill through me. What did she mean by end? Was it about me? I tried to calm myself, telling myself it was probably work. But the hidden fear grew stronger. One afternoon, coming home from the market, I caught Thu talking with an unfamiliar woman in the living room. As soon as they saw me, they stopped at once, their eyes briefly avoiding mine. I greeted them lightly and walked into the kitchen. But inside, my heart burned. Clearly, they were discussing something I wasn't supposed to know. That night, while the whole house slept, I went to the kitchen for water and accidentally overheard Thu's voice in the living room, low but urgent. We have to hurry. Keeping her here is trouble. I can't miss this chance. My whole body trembled. Those words crushed my hope that I had been overthinking. I rushed back to my room, curling up beside Ngok. She stirred, whispering softly, Don't be afraid, Grandma. I'll protect you. A child's words, but like a ray of light piercing the dark. I gripped her hand tightly, a fierce resolve rising within me. I had to uncover the truth. I couldn't let this child grow up in a home full of danger. The next morning, after Hung left for work, I pretended to feel unwell so I could stay home. Quietly watching Thu, just as my instincts warned, as soon as her husband was gone, she grabbed the phone. Her voice was urgent. Just a few more days. Don't hesitate. I've arranged everything already. I pressed my ear to the doorframe, my heart racing. At that moment, a sound came from behind me. Ngok had opened the door, asking, Mom, who are you talking to? Thu, startled, quickly hung up and snapped. Children don't know anything, don't meddle. I stood hidden, my heart nearly dropping out of my chest. Clearly, there was a dark scheme in this house. More and more, I believed I couldn't delay any longer. Mrs. Howe's words echoed in my mind. If you suspect something, involve the police. At least you'll have some support. But I still hesitated. I feared tearing the family apart, feared putting my son in an impossible position. At last, I thought of another path, seeking out an old acquaintance of my late husband, a man who once worked in law enforcement, to quietly ask for help. I suddenly remembered Uncle Tun, the former neighborhood police officer who had always treated my family with warmth. In an old notebook, I still kept his phone number. The next morning, after Hung had gone to work and Thu had taken Ngok to school, I secretly took out my phone, trembling as I dialed his number. My voice was choked. Uncle Tun, maybe I'm overthinking, but I'm truly terrified. I've heard my daughter-in-law saying strange things, and I'm afraid that both my life and Ngok's may be in danger. On the other end, he was silent for a moment before speaking slowly. Stay calm. I'll find a way to come by, but you mustn't let anyone know you've contacted me. If anything unusual happens, call me immediately. Hearing this, I felt both relieved and unsettled. At least I had someone to rely on now, yet inside I was still adrift, unable to see what lay ahead. That night, lying next to Ngok as the wind hissed through the window frame, my heart pounded relentlessly. I knew this wasn't over. My daughter-in-law, with her cryptic words, was surely plotting something. All I could do was keep waiting, watching in silence until the truth surfaced. I couldn't sleep at all that night. Listening to my granddaughter's steady breathing made my heart tighten. Poor child, only 7 years old and already whispering, Grandma, run now. That sentence etched itself into my mind, making me shudder every time I recalled it, torn between helplessness and love for her. Though I had called Uncle Ten and felt a bit more secure, the worry still weighed on me like a boulder. The next morning, Thu behaved differently, even sweetly calling out, Mother, today could you make sour snakehead fish soup? Ngok loves it. I hesitated, stunned by her sudden change. Those who truly care show it from the beginning. Why shift between harshness and sweetness like this? I only nodded and silently took my basket to the market, reminding myself to be cautious. When I came home, Hung had also returned early, looking cheerful. "Mom, my company's about to start a big project. If it goes well, our finances will improve. Thu says you should just rest at home and not worry about anything." Hearing him made me both happy and uneasy. Happy because my son's work was progressing, but the name Thu spoken from his mouth made my heart tighten. Clearly, everything in this household was under Thu's control. Even Hung trusted her completely. I knew that if one day I told him everything, he might not stand on my side. By afternoon, when Thu went to pick up Ngok, I pretended to step out onto the balcony for fresh air. From above, I saw Thu holding the child's hand, smiling as they walked in. But then she bent down, whispering something coldly in Ngok's ear, her eyes like steel.